Through and through. Oh, the Toon Review. Laughs and passion, football too. We are the Toon Review. By the fans, for the fans, through and through. Laughs and passion, football too. We are the Toon Review. 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 Go!
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for today's breakfast show with myself, Paul. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in this morning. There is quite a few stories out there to get through, as usual, on a Monday morning with Newcastle United. So we will look ahead to, obviously, all of them, or most of them, that have been written this morning, that are worth talking about, by the way, because, as usual, there is a few out there who are not worth talking about, to be honest. But John Gibson is a man who I highly respect, and Gibbo has been talking to the Chronicle regarding Nick Woltemade. So we'll start off with that story. But as usual, if you do enjoy the show this morning, guys, please do hit the thumbs up button. Very important to the channel that we keep those coming in, of course. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, as it does massively help. And of course, super chats are available, which is the $sign at the bottom of the live comments. And that will guarantee your comment to be read out on the show. Right, let's start off with Nick Woltemade, shall we? Because obviously there's been a little bit of a concern that we're expecting a little bit too much of the big German at the moment, with what's going on other parts of the football field for Newcastle United. The fact that we're not really chipping in anywhere else on the pitch, and how long do we give that until it's an actual concern? For me, we're not contributing in other parts of the pitch with goals, and we're relying on Big Nick to pull us out the shite every time at the moment. And that was seen, of course, again at Brighton at the weekend when he scored a massive goal for us to pull us level out of nothing, really. Pass across from Miley was slightly behind him. However, again, massively clever improvisation from the big German, and he backflicks it into the corner. It was a wonderful finish. Unfortunately, though, not enough to secure a point or 3 points at the Amex again, where we seem to have real problems trying to get one over Brighton. Without a doubt, the biggest bogey team that we have in the Premier League is Brighton. However, we need to talk about what Gibbo said, and you know what? He's right in everything he says, that we need the wingers to chip in with goals. We need the midfielders to start chipping in with goals. Now, yes, Bruno scored against Nottingham Forest, but you look at the amount of chances that Bruno has had this season that he hasn't converted. Hopefully that will change. It can't keep going on like this. It will hopefully change in the near future, where Bruno, if he gets further forward, will start chipping in with goals. Tonali needs to start doing it. Joe Linton when he plays. But also, the likes of Jacob Ramsey who are going to come on. We need other players to chip in. Gordon, scored for England, yet when he cut inside and hit a couple of shots for us on Sunday, there were powder puff shots that just went straight into the goalkeeper's arms, no problem at all. And it's those type of things that you've got to look at more seriously now, especially away from home. Newcastle's away form is pretty poor right now. Because I might sound a bit harsh here, right, guys? But you look at the teams that we've beaten this season. A very, very poor Wolves side, a very poor Nottingham Forest side, and a Belgian side who really, were very, very poor. I know they're top of the league, but you look at the wins and you think, yeah, they're not against the very strong sides. And when we have come across decent sides this season, we tended to struggle. Barcelona was a good performance, Liverpool was a good performance, but we didn't get anything out the games at the end of the day. We still lost. Which is disappointing. But you look at the games against Villa, Leeds, Bournemouth, these type of games that we've come away with a point from, where realistically we should be winning these games. And, that might be a little selfish for me as a Newcastle fan. But, I expect from the talk from the club of where we want to be, one of the elite sides in the Premier League, a regular European side, of course. We have to put teams like that away. We have to get 3 points. And we're relying a little bit too much on our striker at the minute because there's no offense coming from anywhere else on the pitch, or at least not enough of it. And I totally agree with John Gibson that there's players on that pitch for Newcastle United that really need to step up now, that really need to start performing with goals. It's all right saying, we had a lot of chances, we had this, we had that. But how long is it before we keep saying, to stop saying, we had a lot of chances? We're not creating a lot. So despite the fact that people will tell you, we're having a lot of chances, no, we're not. The stats prove that. The XG proves that. We're not creating enough chances on the field. You look at Brighton on Saturday, that first half was rotten to the core after the first 10 minutes. We start really well, and then Brighton took over the game. They were dominant the first 10 minutes of the second half as well before we actually started to get going. And I don't subscribe to all this fatigue nonsense, right? I really don't. Not this early in the season. I know they've travelled around the world for international break, but come on, they're not exactly travelling in peasant seats. I know Nick Woltemade got an easy jet back from Ireland, but it's what, 50 minutes? These players travel in luxury, guys, and I'm not making any excuses for them at all, because other teams, it happens to other teams as well. Other teams in the Premier League, not just the elite teams in the Premier League, but most of the Premier League teams have a lot of players disappear for international duty, and we're all faced with the same problem when we come back. Now, these players are elite Premier League footballers who are not chipping in enough for Newcastle United right now. But it is early doors. There is time for that to change. Let's make a point of that this isn't a sort of panic-stricken John Gibson saying this. This isn't a panic-stricken journalists in the media saying it. This isn't panic-stricken me saying it. There's a long way to go yet. There's a lot of football to be played in this season. But what we don't want to do, and I've mentioned this a few times, guys, is play catch-up all the time. If we're playing catch-up for the most of the season, it puts pressure on us that really we don't want. We want to get the points in the bag. We want to start moving up the Premier League, and we want to maintain that European place. We don't want to be a yo-yo side in Europe where 1 minute we're qualifying and 2 years later we qualify again. We've got to be up there. We've got to challenge all the time because we need to start acting like an elite team if we're going to be an elite team. And we can't keep making excuses. I am fed up with the excuses that we make when we don't get results. There's too many people out there sort of let our players off the hook a little bit. Jay says here, I'm fed up with hearing the petty excuses for bad game management and lacklustre attitudes on the pitch. We have another 7 games in 22 days. I don't want to hear we are early doors. Look, but we are. I need to say that. We are early doors. But I do agree, Jay, that we need to stop with letting these players off all the time and saying, we didn't do too badly. There was opportunities. We're not getting anything out of these games. We've dropped so many points already this season from games that I would expect us to win, given the players that we have. I would expect us to win. That's not me being greedy. That's not me being selfish. That's me as a Newcastle United fan saying, well, hang on a minute. Why do we keep making excuses up for these players? Because these players are relying heavily on a new signing who shouldn't have that hanging over his head so early in his Newcastle career. We should be making it very, very an easy transition for somebody like Nick Woltemade to come in and gel with his side. The good thing about Woltemade is he was quiet for most of that game against Brighton because we didn't play to his strengths. We didn't get the ball to him. But then he comes up with a moment of genius. And while you've got that on the field, you always have a chance of scoring goals. And it's just not good enough right now. Lou says, morning all. Generally think Joe Linton's starting place is under threat. Been awful all season, barring a League Two side. Whether he's fit or not, Howe needs to drop him till he gets his head right. I agree. I think Joe Linton needs to come out of the side. That is one player especially who right now is struggling and hasn't given anything apart from against Bradford City. It's not good enough from Joe Linton. Phillips says, morning all, a little late saying good morning, getting messages from the UK about Ashington Railway Station winning the World Cup. Okay. Ian Hogg says, are the players becoming complacent knowing they will be playing irrespective of how they play? We need to rotate and give young'uns a chance to shine. Complacency is something that really we should not have in that side right now. No way. Complacency, given who we've signed in the summer, that was to eradicate any complacency about being able to keep your place, whether you're not playing very well. And I think that this is where Joe Linton kind of comes into it, because Joe Linton, Eddie Howe needs to show a little bit of metal here and drop him. You know, he keeps telling us in press conferences that you have to earn your place in the starting 11. Joe Linton hasn't this season and needs a bit of time out. We have players who can come in and do a job. We have Lewis Miley. We have Jacob Ramsey, Joe Willock to an extent. We've got the backup there to make sure that we can rotate. And right now, we just need to keep that. Just make sure that the players know and that they don't get complacent. Tug says, Paul, it's time to keep our opinions about Man United, the Mackems and the Rats to ourselves. Although banter, it is us with egg on our faces again at the start of the season. We are again in trouble. Well, Tug, the banter will never stop between the sides. You know, they'll give it, opinions about Man United, Isak, etc. Why should we shut up when other fans don't? You know, we can get, it's banter at the end of the day, and we will give it just as much as we take it. Right now, it's very funny about Isak. Very, very funny. And we will continue to make fun of Liverpool. Do I think Isak's going to come good? Of course I do. Eventually he will. Because he's a very, very, very talented footballer. But right now, why can't we just have a look at the crap we took off Liverpool fans in the summer, Tug? You know, abomination of abusive comments. So yeah, I'm sorry, mate. I'm still going to give it out. Dan says, Howe needs to rotate properly. Christ knows why he played a full squad of players that mostly played 2 international games and flew back. We got good players on that bench. We should have them playing. Part of being an elite player is dealing with the workload and performing. If you can't cope, you aren't an elite player. With success comes more responsibility. I'm loving that. I am absolutely loving them comments, and I'm not disagreeing with them. If you're a Newcastle United fan at the minute and you think everything's rosy, please do take your blinkers off, because everything is not rosy. We're not playing well away from home. Yes, we beat USG in the Champions League very, very comfortably, but I would expect that. It's a Belgian side. Their league is nowhere near the quality that the Premier League is. I would expect us to win that game. But yeah, we played well. Absolutely we did. But I'm sorry, most of the performances from Newcastle United in the Premier League this season have been poor. Even the victory against Wolves, we won 1-0, but it wasn't convincing at all. We need better. Simple as that. And I just hope people realise that we need better. We need to see better on the pitch. And until we do, then, I guess we will always have a complaint, guys. And I'm not happy with some of the performances from a lot of the side. Laura says, I wonder if we can spend in January. I don't think that's on the agenda at the minute, Laura. I think what they're trying to do is get these contract extensions sorted out first, and then they'll move on. At the moment, it's very, very difficult for them, because, listen, January's tough. January's a tough transfer window. It's tough to make signings. It's tough to get anybody in. The prices are always inflated in January. But look, I'm sure they will target a certain player that we probably need come January. But I think contract extensions are Ross Wilson's biggest concern right now. Right, Eddie Howe's been talking as well about Malik Chow and Sven Botman. Now, turns out Eddie Howe was very, very surprised that neither of them were called up for the international break. Now, to be honest, as a Newcastle fan, I was pretty pleased with that. Without having to go away, 2 weeks training again, get that understanding. And of course, Malik Chow, I think, was head and shoulders one of our best players at Brighton. And I know Woltemade won our viewers man of the match, but Malik Chow was sensational, by the way. Eddie said they've got all the attributes. They have the height, the strength, the power, but also the technical ability. They can do everything. They are really good users of the ball, and that's hugely important in the game we want to play. In terms of the international careers, they are such high-quality players. I'm always surprised when they're not involved with their national teams, and I'm sure long-term that is a big aim for both players, and if they continue to play as well as they are, they'll get those call-ups. Now, he did also mention that, obviously, Fabian Schär, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get back in the side now. We knew this would probably happen because, an injury now, when you've got certain qualities to come in and they play well, you are not going to get back in the side. Now, if Malik Chow gets injured, Schär comes back and Scher's playing brilliantly again, Malik will find it hard to get in the side. That is just the way things work. And that's a good thing, guys. It's a good thing that the Fabian Schär, maybe not for him personally, but for us as fans, seeing Malik Chow perform and keep Scher out the side, I mean, we kind of expected that, given Scher's age. We expected Malik Chow to come in. There was a few people doubted his qualities, but this guy looks class and looks like a real bargain for the money we've paid for him. And long may it continue. Eddie Howe will obviously get the very best out of Botman and Chow. It's clear that they work on things in training. You can say, oh, well, yeah, but look at the way they were passed through on Sunday for Willock's first goal. Not Willock. Welbeck, I should say. Welbeck's first goal. It's the first time really we've seen them pass through like that, but I don't think that was their particular fault. It was the midfield. There's a still shot just before Welbeck goes through. There's a still shot, and it shows you our midfielders, 3 of them in a row, and we were talking about this last night with me and Billy, passed through far too easy for their goal. First goal. Too easy. Anyway, that's what Eddie Howe had to say on them. Now, listen, this is going to make you laugh because the German media, they're doing a complete U-turn on Nick Woltemade, by the way. You can remember a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Rummenigge, good morning, made remarks about Newcastle being idiots for paying a certain amount of money for Nick Woltemade. And of course, other Germans have had the say, kind of putting him down a little bit for his valuation. But this last week has been quite sensational for Woltemade himself, of course, scoring his first goal for Germany and then scoring another worldie for Newcastle United against Brighton. Now, the German media have suddenly started to change. They wrote, Nick Woltemade recently scored his first goal for the German national team, firing Nagelsmann's team to a crucial victory against Northern Ireland. And Woltemade continues to make waves in the Premier League as well. In Newcastle United's match against Brighton, Woltemade, €85 million signing, scored his 4th league goal in 5 games, and what a goal. England marvels at a magical goal from Big Nick. That was one of the headlines. Kicker, another German media. The former Stuttgart player underlined his top form by brilliantly backheeling across in the penalty area into the far corner. An absolute dream goal. For Woltemade, it was 4th goal in 5 league appearances and his first goal away from home. Then it goes on to say, however, it wasn't enough for us to secure a point, but we'll step over that. Isn't it just funny how things can turn very, very quickly? Just a couple of weeks ago, even though Woltemade was scoring goals, he was still getting it from the German media. And then I wake up this morning, I'm sitting there having a cup of coffee, and I almost spill it when I read, Bild and Kicker, two big media outlets in Germany, coming out with such praise for our Big Nick. And it makes you giggle, because this should have been said about Big Nick when he's been scoring goals earlier on. But it's taken to, scoring another worldie that people are actually taking notice in Germany, thinking, Christ, this is our centre forward here. Let's build this guy up. This guy can do something really special here. Not just for Newcastle United, but for Germany. And for some reason, they've been crucifying him And I just wonder how they're feeling now. And certainly, little Mr. Rummenigge there, thinking, right, he could have played for Bayern Munich. He could have been playing for Bayern Munich this season alongside Harry Kane or sitting off Harry Kane, whatever it may be. But they didn't want to pay the money. We did. A gamble to a certain degree. But look at this. 5 Premier League goals, or 4 Premier League goals already. None for Isak. Yet I don't see anybody hammering him. Although it is starting to happen. Wayne Rooney and a few other pundits have come out and absolutely slated Alexander Isak. Not necessarily for his form for Liverpool, but the way he behaved at the start of the season has had consequences. It's had consequences for Liverpool themselves. It's had consequences for Spain. And his own selfishness has caused a lot of problems for his new team and his country. But he will, Woltemade isn't. Please don't compare Woltemade and Isak because they're very different players. It seems to me like Isak needed a lot of assistance to get his goals, and that's just me saying it from, a fan from the outside in. Looking at how these players work, if you look at Isak's goals for Newcastle, a lot of them were provided for him. Yes, he scored a couple of individual brilliant goals, no doubt about that. However, a lot of it was... Did I say Spain or Sweden? I must have said Spain. I do apologise. Consequences for Sweden. I do apologise for that. God, you use a lot of quick in the chat, really, aren't you? Say a wrong word, boof. But I did mean Sweden. I think everybody knows I meant Sweden. But they're very different players, Woltemade and Isak. And Woltemade has proved already that he can make things out of nothing. I'm not sure that Isak has that talent locked in. Sometimes he can, but most of the time you look at his goals for Newcastle and they were provided. He got Murphy assisted him a lot. So did Gordon. So did Barnes. So did a lot of the team. So, listen, he's not going to get that same ammunition from Liverpool because they're very selfish up front. Gakpo likes to shoot. Salah likes to shoot. But it's nice to see certain pundits, Wayne Rooney, etc., coming out and saying, it's because of his actions at the start of the season. The fact that he didn't do a pre-season, he had nothing to do with Newcastle United the first couple of games when he could have actually been playing, and making sure that he was still match fit and just hoping that a move went through instead of doing what he did. And I find it hilarious. So there, yeah, it's all starting to turn on its head, and the consequences of his actions are well and truly now being highlighted by everybody. Rather than blowing smoke up his arse and having to go at Newcastle United saying, they were to blame, they were this, they were that. When we knew that wasn't the case, it was a simple case of Isak's a greedy bastard, he's a selfish bastard, and he basically shat on Newcastle United. That's the way it works. That's how it was, and now he's reaping the rewards for that by, being substituted most of the time. Because we know he can't play for 90 minutes. But he came off again yesterday, nothing. Now, the transfer rumours or the transfer mongers out there amongst the journalists are now linking Anthony Gordon with a move to Arsenal. And this has all come from the fact that, news came out last week that that Newcastle United had a £100 million clause put into Anthony Gordon's contract, a release clause. Arsenal are apparently monitoring the situation very closely and have been over recent seasons. Now, obviously, Liverpool, the move in 2024 fell through. Whether Arsenal would have come in with a late bid, I don't know. However, they are now being linked with Anthony Gordon because of this release clause. Now, if the release clause is met and Anthony Gordon does want to talk to Arsenal, then Newcastle United can't do anything, of course. Personally, I don't think that Anthony Gordon is an Arsenal player. At all. I just can't see how Anthony Gordon fits into the Arsenal setup. They've got some fantastic players already there that I think are performing better than Anthony Gordon anyway. But if it did happen, Newcastle would have to then just say, There's nothing we could do. But I think if we got £100 million for Anthony Gordon, by the way, it would be an absolute robbery right now. I don't think he's anywhere near a £100 million player. Despite him playing well in recent games, he's got to continue that and continue that for a long, long time. But I find it baffling that he's linked with Arsenal, because I don't know about any of you guys out there. I don't see him as an Arsenal player. Aaron's mentioned there, Trossard, Eze, Saka, Madueke, Martinelli. They don't need him. They've got so much quality. And why would they spend £100 million on a player, for me, who is probably, half that value, if that, at the moment? There's no way Anthony Gordon is, in my opinion, more than 50 million quid right now. That may change by the end of the season, by the way, because if he keeps going the way he's going, playing well for England, playing well for Newcastle, obviously that valuation will rise. But right now, as I do this show here this morning, I don't think he's worth anywhere near 100 million quid. But if we got 100 million for him, I'd snap the hands off. I wouldn't be disappointed for Anthony Gordon to leave for 100 million quid, because I think we could get so much quality in for 100 million quid. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Of course, the transfer window is months away yet. But you're going to get these rumours kicking in already. I expect the Tonali rumours to start up again, the Bruno rumours. This is why I want to see Ross Wilson work very quickly on these contract extensions, get them sorted, and it cuts out a lot of the crap. It won't stop some of the crap, but it will cut a lot of it out. Certainly from mainstream media, if these players sign new contracts. But if they do have release clauses put into them, then it will set the cat among the pigeons again. Because if Tonali has a release clause, he'd be linked with moves to Italy, Spain, France, all these type of moves, saying, these clubs are willing to pay the release clause. But look, I mean, £100 million, we're not going to turn our noses up at that, are we? Now, Jose Mourinho, love him or hate him, he has never, ever hidden his, I wouldn't say love for Newcastle United, but he's never hidden his feelings towards the club, certainly with Sir Bobby. Jose Mourinho has always showed very, 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 very high respect for Newcastle United. And he's always spoke very highly about Sir Bobby and things like that, and the links between Bobby and the club. And he has always respected Newcastle United, and he's done it again before this Champions League game. He's come out and explained that Newcastle United are one of the clubs that he looks for results-wise. He always keeps an eye out for how Newcastle United are doing. He has the utmost respect for the football club and the fans. And I think this is really nice to come from Mourinho, because this is a big game tomorrow. And Mourinho could come out with his normal games and all his crap about, trying to wind the opposition up. But I genuinely do think that Mourinho consistently shows, a big respect for Newcastle United. And I think actually it's given back to him. I think he realised that Newcastle fans, the work he did with Bobby Robson, back in the day, it was fantastic. And the way he speaks about Bobby, and he's also spoke very highly about Eddie Howe and what he's done for Newcastle since he's been at the club. And I genuinely do believe that, maybe not now, but I think if Jose Mourinho was offered the Newcastle job in the past, he probably would have taken it. But obviously, in his heyday, Mourinho was at Chelsea and winning things, and then obviously went on to win a lot of things with other clubs. But it's just nice to hear an opposition manager actually, for once, give Newcastle United the respect that they actually deserve. Because we've come a long way in a very short space of time since the takeover. This is our second season in the Champions League since the takeover. And I think Mourinho recognises that Newcastle United could be a force to be reckoned with in years to come. But the fact that he's come out and said such nice things, again, how can you not respect the guy? He's done some silly things in the past, of course he has, but, which manager... You look at all the managers, the successful managers, they've all done stupid things in the past. The Wengers, the Fergusons, etc. However, you have to respect this guy for what he's done in football, whether you like him or not as a person. But he's certainly... I've never heard Jose Mourinho disrespect Newcastle United. And for that, I think the respect is there from fans to him as well. But listen, I hope we tonk Benfica. I really do. I think we need a good performance tomorrow night. It's a big, big game because if we can get another 3 points in the Champions League, that really does set us in good stead for qualification, which would be a magnificent achievement. We've got to just put the Premier League on the back burner now. Fulham at the weekend. Just forget that's happening. Really concentrate on the game tomorrow. Get 3 points and put in a good performance, because let's get the momentum back, because I think that's what we lost a lot of in the international break. We lost a bit of momentum that we were gaining through the last couple of results. And then obviously the international break has took that away from us. Let's get it back. Let's go out there, perform well against Benfica, and make sure that we get a few goals. The performance is good. The atmosphere is great. Get a feel-good factor back instead of all the worrying that we're doing at the minute. But there you go, guys. That is the morning news for you. Thank you very much for tuning in. As usual, great conversation this morning with some very interesting news articles. If there is anything to bring you during the day, I'll bring a video out. But we're back tonight at 7 o'clock with the preview for the Benfica game. We'll have a look at how Benfica are doing this season, see what Eddie Howe might do tactics-wise and his first 11, and of course the score prediction. So a lot to come today. We'll see you back at 7 o'clock. But in the meantime, have a fantastic Monday, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Come back and check out some breathe.